Hello, everybody. Welcome to another Zoom call. Um, let's just jump right in. We don't have a whole lot of questions submitted, so if you're thinking of asking any, chat them in as soon as we can, so we don't end too soon. Okay, let's jump right to the questions. What's the difference between lumbrokinase and nattokinase and the pancreatic enzymes that Dr. Gonzalez used for cancer? So it's the type of enzyme. So there's different enzymes that break down different things. The enzymes that Dr. William Kelly used, and then Dr. Gonzalez learned from him, and then I actually learned from Dr. Gonzalez. So Dr. Gonzalez was one of my instructors, um, a great guy, and um, he was more of a cancer clinician. Dr. Kelly was an orthodontist who actually helped heal his cancer by using proteolytic enzymes. So proteolytic enzymes are enzymes that break down proteins. And then there are enzymes that break down mainly carbohydrates like amylase, and enzymes that mainly break down fats like lipase. And there's a lot of different forms of enzymes. Lumbrokinase and nattokinase are known to help kind of clear the blood and clean the blood. Nattokinase really got its start in helping work and gobble up plaquing on the inside of arteries. Um, the problem is that when they've done studies on some of these, um, some studies are positive and some studies are negative, means they don't really show much improvement at all. But I really do believe this is just my opinion that some studies were set to be negative, meaning that they used a poor source of nutrient in their study. Um, that's just my opinion. They were funded by the pharmaceutical companies to fail, and they failed. But I do think that, there are good forms of enzymes, there's and bad forms of enzymes. Enzymes are very heat sensitive, so you got to be careful if you have a bottle of enzymes. If you leave them out in your car in the summertime and they heat up in your car, you probably destroyed most of the enzymes in that bottle. So you want to keep your enzymes protected from heat. You want to keep all your nutrients protected from excess heat, but definitely enzymes. Enzymes will degrade quickly. I've said in other podcasts that there's some supplements that basically have, an endless shelf life. One would be minerals, really don't degrade over time. If you took a bottle of a good quality mineral from a good supplement company 30 years ago, it probably have 98% efficacy too, as well. Antioxidants don't degrade. So if you have supplements that use antioxidants in them, some supplement companies put put catalase and superoxide dismutase basically in every product. One of those companies would be Biotics Research. It doesn't make them a better company, but they use kind of as their base um, catalase and superoxide dismutase. So it's in literally every supplement that they have. Well, one of the positives of that, it basically extends the shelf life of that product to, decades beyond its expiration time. Well, minerals aren't that, or excuse me, um, uh, enzymes are not that way. So enzymes will degrade over time. They're the most easy thing to degrade with heat. Um, And enzymes are specific to what they will break down. So lumbrokinase and nattokinase, I have blog posts on both of those, what they do, how they're used in the body. You would not, take high doses of lumbrokinase and nattokinase to break down the waste layer around a cancer. You'd use proteolytic enzymes. So it's just the right use of an enzyme. So you'd use a if you're trying to use a digestive enzyme to help break down food, you'd use a more broad spectrum digestive enzyme like US Enzymes Digestimes Plus or our Clear Digest, which is a more broad spectrum enzyme to break down food. But you wouldn't use our Clear Digest to help break down as a high dose to break down the um, the waste layer around a cancer. You'd use a proteolytic enzyme. So you just got to use your enzymes wisely. And I will say, at the time that Dr. William Kelly was using enzymes, that was back in the 1960s, there just wasn't very many enzymes on the market. So he settled on the pancreatic pork enzymes, and that's what Dr. Gonzalez used, was the Allergy Research brand pancreatic pork enzymes. Um, now, the negative of that is that you have to take a ton of them. And he would use in his enzyme therapy, people would be taking upwards of 150 capsules a day. It's a lot of capsules to swallow. It's going to be very difficult. So there's some better enzymes on the market now that are more concentrated, so you could take less capsules. I have estrogen receptor ER positive breast cancer. The two drugs that they have prescribed to me are letrozole and raminosib. What supplements do I continue taking? So um, you wouldn't change, some people when they go on an aromatase inhibitor, they think, well, I might as well get off any of the natural aromatase inhibitors. And in one sense, that makes sense. You can do that. Personally, I wouldn't. I would still be taking my natural aromatase inhibitor. So the answer to this question is I wouldn't change my protocol based upon these two medications. I would stay to my protocol. Dr. Connors, regarding our conversation on Monday about my labs and my thyroid numbers, my thyroid doctor asked about maybe thyroid cancer possibly reoccurring. I want your thoughts on that. Scary. Thank you. So, so that person's thyroid numbers, if I recall, they had elevated TSH over 100. So TSH is thyroid stimulating hormone that's created in the pituitary gland. They had depressed reverse T3, and they had depressed T3 and depressed T4, free T3 and free T4. They had negative TPO antibodies, negative thyroid globulin antibodies. That is the picture perfect diagnostic scenario of primary hypothyroidism. So it would be very rare for a person with thyroid cancer to have any abnormalities in their thyroid numbers. Either their T3, T4, typically thyroid cancer doesn't affect T3 and T4, and thyroid cancer does not affect TSH. So when you have elevated TSH, depressed T3, free T3, depressed free T4, um, negative on the antibodies, that is a picture perfect example of primary hypothyroidism. There's always that 1 in a million chance that, it could be something else. And if you want to rule it out, get a scan, an MRI of the thyroid gland, and you could rule it out. Typically, if cancer of the thyroid gland was reoccurring, you would see you would have other palpatory findings as well. But if you want to be careful and rule it out, I would not say those numbers are indicative of thyroid cancer returning based upon the numbers. Um, doesn't mean that something might not be going on, but I wouldn't. That didn't even cross my mind that that is a ominous sign of thyroid cancer. There's lots of standard blood work and specific to an organ or something like that, blood work that you can run that gives you ominous signs. Like it's not diagnostic of anything, but it's an ominous sign kind of gives you clues. So, for instance, some ominous signs in your complete metabolic panel would be, wow, my cholesterol has always run about 205 to 220. And I was really excited because I ran my complete metabolic panel. My cholesterol was down to 115. Sorry, but that's a bad sign. So if you have your cholesterol plummet, um, so if the person wasn't taking Lipitor or anything like that, well, even if you're taking Lipitor, it shouldn't plummet 100 points. So, but having low cholesterol is an ominous sign. Of course, your 13-year-old goes and does a complete metabolic panel, and maybe they have cholesterol of 115. That could be their normal cholesterol. But if your normal cholesterol is 180 to 220 or something like that, and you go and you run it and it's down in the low 100, that's an ominous sign of liver cancer. Another ominous sign in standard blood work would be um, uh, uh, depressed um, or changes in your liver function tests, like your alkaline phosphatase, your AST, your ALP, your albumin, your globulin levels. Those are just different ominous signs. They're not diagnostic of anything specific without looking at other things. But typically, with the thyroid, a person doesn't go in and have abnormal thyroid levels, and then the person goes, and the doctor goes, "Well, this could be a sign of cancer. We need to investigate." No, signs of cancer with the thyroid will be palpatory findings, would be a mass, would be something we need to do an ultrasound on, and then do a scan of, and then do a biopsy of. So um, that's would be my take on that. How often should I use the Rife Ion Pro Wave to detox heavy metals or other things? Is there such a thing as too much? Well, I never suggest using the Ion Pro Wave more than one time a day. That would be the maximum. Once a day would be the maximum on that. Um, does the Ion Pro Wave, first of all, let's take a step back. Does the Ion Pro Wave um, really help detoxify heavy metals? Um, yeah, it can. Are you going to pull a whole bunch of heavy metals out of your feet and into the water? Not really. No. Ion Pro Wave is, understand the right Ion Pro Wave is putting frequencies in. And by putting frequencies through there, you are affecting tissue and you do have some detoxification through your feet. But all that change in color in the water isn't just a bunch of gunk coming out of your body. So let's not misinterpret that. Now there's other machines called ion cleanses. There's a company called Ion Cleanse that started that machine. Now that's actually, it's called an ion cleanse because it's ionizing the water at a positive charge for a period of time and then a negative charge. Typically, it's set at a 70-30 setting, positive charge to negative charge. And therefore, having that charge of the water is pulling the opposite ion out of your tissue more so than the Ion Pro Wave. So Ion Pro Wave does a little bit of ionization. That's why it's going to pull some things, but not as much as that other machine called the Ion Cleanse. I think our Arconia makes one that is similar to that. But machine, that company has, both those companies have a very good reputation of making quality equipment. They've been doing it for years. Now, there can be benefit to using something like that to help pull heavy metals, but quite honestly, most heavy metals in your body are lodged in your tissues. They're not circulating in your bloodstream unless you have acute metal toxicity. So if you did a blood test and you were testing for heavy metals in your blood test, they would be negative unless you had acute exposure. So, meaning that, okay, somebody who just tried to poison you with arsenic and you got really super sick, went into the emergency room. It wouldn't even be something they would normally do because most people don't get poisoned, right? But if for some reason you had a very astute doctor that maybe listened to a family member that came in and said, my mom's husband, I think he killed his last wife or something. I don't know, crazy story and watched too much Dateline or something. But, and then they tested for that, then you would have elevated arsenic in the blood. And the treatment would be to put you on IV EDTA immediately. So IV chelation immediately to pull that out of your blood. But unless you had this grotesque exposure, this high exposure to a heavy metal, where you get heavy metals is lower dose. And lower dose heavy metals, they're not going to stay in your blood for very long. It's going to be pushed to your tissues. And then it could, be pushed anywhere. So it can be pushed into cells. It can be pushed in across the blood-brain barrier, especially the small particle heavy metals like you'd find in vaccines. That's one of the major reasons why I'm so adamantly against vaccines, is because the aluminum and mercury that they do use as an adjuvant in the vaccine, they say, meaning they, the pharmaceutical company, says there's no harm, no foul in those because they're so small, they're nanoparticles. Well, nanoparticles of aluminum are far worse because they will cross the blood-brain barrier. Matter of fact, it's just really interesting, just reading an article today about how nano heavy medical metals are one major cause of neurological tangles in Alzheimer's disease. So neurological tangles in Alzheimer's disease can be made up of heavy metals, can be made up of biotoxins like H. pylori and Borrelia burgdorferi and chlamydia pneumonia. Those are the three that they found in the study of biotoxins. And then heavy metals, aluminum, mercury, most likely due to from vaccinations. And these tangles block neuronal flow and conductivity, and that's what is Alzheimer's disease. So, heavy metals are a bad player in our body. Heavy metals are also one of the top four, along with H. pylori, causes of epithelial inflammation, endothelial inflammation, causing coronary heart disease. So, yeah, we want to get rid of heavy metals, but they're lodged in these tissues. So, the way you get rid of them is go back and look at the 7 phases of detoxification pathways, and you're supporting all these phases of detoxification, and you really need to use ultimately a chelator that's going to grab onto them, help pull out of the tissues, and you have to do this slowly and be supporting all the phases of detoxification so that you're not just pulling them out of one tissue and it can't get through the liver phase one, phase two pathways because those are already blocked because you're not supporting that and you're already detoxing too many other things, and then they just get deposited somewhere else. So it's real important to follow that pathway. That's why I'm so big on saunas, because saunas is helping you detox through your skin and bypass the liver. So the Ion Pro 8 can help. So don't get me wrong, you have that tool, use it, but don't count on that alone, is all I'm saying. This is the last question, you guys. So if you have any questions, chat them in. I was recently diagnosed with Grover's disease. Grover's disease has nothing to do with the Muppet character. It's a skin rash, typically in older men, where you get this itchy, extreme itchy flares, just as this person is saying. They're looking for a Rife program for this. Um, I'll have to look at what you really want to look at is for this is antihistamines. So if you look up Grover's disease, you won't find anything that is the known cause. However, uh, Grover's disease, along with many other um, skin rashes that have no known causes that are idiopathic, yeah, are due to histamine reactions uh, due to exposure of toxins. So with a person that has had cancer, you're exposed. I think this person just did surgery. You're exposed to chemicals in you're exposed to tons of garbage. They had to put you out with chemicals, you were put out with drugs, those things build up in your system and you end up with a histamine reaction to those things. So it all gets back to detoxification pathways, going back to the 7 phases of detox. Think about antihistamine type things. And remember, for a cancer patient, you know, there's some drugs that can be good for a cancer patient. And one of them is the antihistamine, over-the-counter antihistamines. So over-the-counter antihistamine, if it helps with this, it will also help decrease histamines elsewhere in your body, which can be really good for your cancer. So think about other good natural antihistamines, large bark gum, quercetin, any anti-inflammatory things. That's what I would think of. Also, you can do things on your skin to give you relief. I would think of things like um, some we have some new tallow-based creams that can be really good. I would use tallow. You could also try a coconut oil. You could try like a comfrey um, salve, like a comfrey uh, based salve. Maybe you mix that with a tallow. I would try different things that will decrease the inflammation. But almost always, I one of the things that may help with this is doing the sauna. So you have to test that out. I would do, if you have a sauna, do short period of times with the sauna. That could help with that too. I was reading when doing a parasite cleanse, lots of heavy metals are released into the system. Are they in the tissue or the blood? Um, I don't know if how true that is or not. Um, uh, you know, the truth is that everybody has heavy metals in your tissues, and the most common cell type that is going to harbor toxins, chemicals, poisons, drugs, heavy metals are fat cells. So fat cells I've always said that fat cells have the gift of accommodation. They like welcome everybody in. Come on in, stay here. We'll have an extra room for you. We'll make supper and breakfast with muffins in the morning. That's what fat cells do. They're wonderful human beings. And they allow everybody in, no matter how bad your past is. So I don't know that doing a parasite cleanse draws heavy metals or chemicals out. I don't know that to be true. Um, if you end up with more circulating heavy metals, remember they're going to be in the tissues, they'll be in the cells. You will have some in the spaces between the cells. That's called the extracellular space, but it typically won't stay there. your lymph system is always attempting to clear that away, and anything that goes into your lymph system will eventually get to your venous system, circulates through your liver, hopefully exits the bloodstream at the liver, and then gets deposited into the bile after going through phase one and phase two detoxification in the liver. And in the bile, it goes down to the gallbladder, and from the gallbladder goes to your duodenum, first part of the small intestine, and from there, hopefully, will be deposited in your toilet without being reabsorbed in the large intestine. That's why you would use binders. So, with any detoxification or even a parasite kill type program, you want to go slow because you could overwhelm your liver and just circulate these things somewhere else. You could overwhelm your gallbladder, and that is a major cause of stone formation and gallbladder sluggishness. And then you could, if your bowel movements aren't regular and healthy, you could just be reabsorbing these things. After my last cheek swab, we increased Benadryl to 6 per day. My waking blood glucose is still low to mid 90s. Is there anything else I can do to get this down? Um, um, the berberine can be helpful. I don't remember if you're taking berberine. Um, just about everybody could add berberine to their protocol. If you've heard me speak at any time, berberine is, you know, probably one of my, if not my favorite supplement. It's one of my favorite supplements. Um, Taking two a day of the Berber Clear, I think it's only 200 milligrams. You could bump that up. And that would be one thing to do, just bump that up. And the reason why berberine is such a favorite supplement for somebody with cancer is because it does reduce your blood glucose levels. It and it is the one of the major killers um, of H. pylori. So it's just a great supplement all around. And there's just a lot of research on berberine as a direct killer of cancer too. So berberine's a great thing to take. Yeah, so I would increase it. I'd start by increasing it to 4 a day and see give it a week or two and see if that lowers your blood glucose at all. You could go up to 6 or 8 a day. But if you're at like 8 a day and it's really not budging your blood glucose, then I would probably back off again. Remember, what's your blood glucose? Where where is your blood glucose coming from? Your waking blood glucose coming from? You didn't eat anything all night long. You were fasting. Maybe you ate something at 8 o'clock and then went to bed at 10 o'clock or something. And so you haven't eaten since 8 o'clock, pretend, and your blood glucose is 90. Where is that coming from? Um, it's coming from glycogen stores in your liver. So your liver stores glucose in long chains of glucose molecules called glycogen. And then it breaks down in the middle of the night through secretion of cortisol. So cortisol, think of that as a bad hormone. Oh my gosh, cortisol is bad. No, no, everything is needed. Cortisol, elevated cortisol still isn't bad. It's an indicator of something. It's an indicator of adrenal stress. but you need cortisol. Cortisol is secreted in the middle of the night to break down glycogen stores. Well, why do you need glucose in the middle of the night? My muscles aren't using it. Maybe somebody people's are more than others if they're thrashing around in bed or something. But glucose is the primary fuel for the brain. Your brain fuels on glucose and oxygen. Glucose and oxygen is what runs your brain. So your brain is working all night long, even though you're not solving problems like you're doing in the middle of the day. Well, truly, your brain is solving problems all night long. Your brain is still just as active in the middle of the night as it is in the daytime. So you need glucose for that. If your waking glucose was in the 60s and your daily, if you did a 12-hour fast during the day and it was higher, that would tell you that you have issues with adrenal fatigue and you need to support your adrenal glands so that they can make more cortisol at night in order to cause the breakdown of glycogen and fuel your brain. That's one of the issues that people have when they say, I wake up in the middle of the night, I tend to fall asleep just fine, but then I wake up at 1 o'clock to go to the bathroom and I can't go back to sleep again. What is wrong? It takes me an hour and I have to get back to sleep again. That is a sign of adrenal fatigue, and your adrenals are not kicking out enough cortisol to break down the glycogen stores, or you don't, or it could be you don't have glycogen stores in your liver. So the treatment for that is you need to support your adrenal glands so that you can make enough cortisol because you need that breakdown so your brain isn't starving. Because the reason why you can't go back to sleep is because you don't have the glycogen for your brain. So your body basically won't let you fall asleep. So you have to get up and walk around, and then you'll break down glycogen and create glycogen breakdown through another pathway in order to fuel your brain. So if you can't go back to sleep at 1 o'clock in the morning and you're lay there in bed with your eyes wide open, the best thing you can do is get up and eat something right away. Get up and eat, maybe some crackers or something, some carbs so you get instant glucose to fuel your brain to help you fall asleep. Or get up and walk around um, to break down glycogen in your liver. Another way is to eat some protein before you go to sleep so um, uh, you have some nutrients to basically fuel your nighttime um, staying asleep. What are your thoughts about uh, gynostema for lowering sugar? Yes, that there are some. We have some products in what's the name of the one product? I forgot. It's called oh golly. Um, there are some different products on the market. Diaxanol, that's the product. It's an orthomolecular product. And it has Portagel and um, mucopolysaccharides and hyaluronic acid. And there are multiple different products to lower blood sugar. All of them are just fine. Chromium picolinate is another one that was really hot for a long time. So you could try those things too. I just like berberine because it has so many other side benefits. If you can't sleep, can you take a little honey? Yeah, so that would be some carbs. Some tea with some honey in it might be good. Help you go back to sleep. Um, that's where I mean, in the old days, your mother would give you a glass of milk, and help you warm milk, help you fall asleep. Why? Because there's sugar in it, um, and it gives you sugar for your brain to help you fall back asleep. And that's why, stress is an issue. Why I can't sleep when you have stress. Um, because your cortisol is just bouncing all over, or your cortisol levels have spiked because of your stress all day. You've been worried all day. Your cortisol is just burned out, and you're in adrenal fatigue at night, and you don't have the cortisol to break down the glycogen, and so any other questions? All right. Well, we will call it a night. Thank you guys for being on. This will be up as soon as I can get it uploaded to YouTube. All right. God bless you guys. Bye bye.